Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Omega Insight. First and foremost, I'd like to mention that we are beginning the Omega programs. We'll be back in the classroom. Our first program will be October, Omega 2, which is March 17th to the 20th. There have been a couple of cancellations, so there are a few seats open if you're interested. So that's March 17th to the 20th. We'll be at a new location, Dynamic Counseling Center. I'm going to keep saying it wrong. Dynamic Living Counseling Center in Tempe. That's where will we be renting from now on. Um, Go to the website and you'll get the latest address. And then in April, we will be doing an Omega 1. This will be it's April 29th to May 1st. So that's an Omega 1. Again, just go to our website and you can register from there. Tonight, I wanted to take a moment and talk about obstacles. Obviously, there is a war happening on the other side of the planet. War is never a good thing. Um, I try not to say good or bad. War is disruptive, is what we can say. And if we look at from the Omega perspective, we can look at this as an obstacle. And as we say, obstacles are always something to encounter and overcome. Obstacles always make us stronger. I picked up this book by John Baines called The Stellar Man. This is actually George's book, and it has George's highlights and writing in it. So there's sticky notes from George that are written in it. But I opened to the page that said obstacles, obviously. And according to John Baines, he says obstacles are not nature's reactions, but ordinary barriers which all people have to face in order to evolve. Whenever we have a situation that unfolds and we see it as an obstacle or this is something not working out the way I want to, I have to remember that it's an opportunity. I always like to connect the words obstacle and opportunity with one another. When I think about an obstacle or a hurdle, I think about something that is obstructing my view. That's an obstacle. It's obstructing my view. I can climb on top of it and get a grander view, which enhances me, or I can feel burdened by it and it becomes a diminishing factor. There is no such thing as somebody who has an easy life. Obstacles arrive in many shapes and forms. They can be connected to our family, to our friends, to our work, to our physical being, physically, mentally, and emotionally, spiritually. We can have all different kinds of obstacles. And what we have are opportunities to overcome. Naturally, when an obstacle presents itself, our first thought is, ugh, or we begrudge it. Now, I want to go back to the idea of Ukraine and the war with Russia. Does this mean I'm saying we should embrace the war? Yay, war! Absolutely not. My goodness gracious, no. But what we can do is shift our perspective and our attitude. Instead of filling ourselves with anger and upset and how dare they and who do they think they are, we could focus on the idea of um, being grateful that people are escaping, being grateful for heroes, being grateful and feeling the love and the compassion for people who want to fight for their country in Ukraine. Um, Being accepting that that happens over there and to remind me that just because I'm not there, it doesn't mean I don't have war that exists within myself. George always used to say, war, in order for me to stop the war on the planet, I must first stop the war within myself, which I completely and totally agree with. By the way, George Adair, the founder of Omega and Vector, uh, passed away almost 10 years ago. Now, this year will be 10 years, and he had a lot of those little quips and sayings. So again, he would say, in order for me to stop the war outside in the world, I must first stop the war within me. Therefore, when I look at the Ukraine, instead of being upset and angry, I can take this as an opportunity to say, okay, what is it within me that I'm feeling warring at? Whether it's judging or aggressive or annoyed because someone's not acting the way I want them to, or someone's not doing what I want them to, or someone has resources that I don't have. That's really what war comes down to. I want that country to be the way I want them to be and take over their resources and let them commit to me. I mean, really, if we think about it. And I am in no way diminishing the war on the planet. It's difficult as an empath not to feel compassion and empathy for Ukraine. And it's difficult to, well, you don't have to be an empath. It's difficult for anyone to look at the videos and watching the fathers saying goodbye to their families as they head off, not knowing if they'll ever see them again. Watching the refugees flee to escape, to get out of the hot zones. You know, everyone feels that compassion. And so it's difficult to see the war and think about, okay, this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity because my emotions are pulled in. My spiritual connection to another human being suffering is pulled in. And that's a challenge. It's a challenge not to be drawn into it and not to add hatred. I mean, my goodness gracious, we had such turmoil in the last few years in the United States with our political, and everyone's angry and upset. And by adding more anger and upset, it does nothing. It takes the quiet ones who remember love, compassion, and peace, and not to be wrapped up in that drama, which is so easily can happen. I've been purposely trying not to look at the news. I'll every once in a while I'll check on, what's the status, and I get the updates. And I'm grateful now for my little notifications. Oh, there's only a two-liner, that's all I have to read. Okay. I don't want to, unless I want to spend more time going into it. Blah blah blah. So, back to the idea of obstacles. When I think about obstacles, when we are encountered with obstacles, when we find an obstacle in our path and we are obstructed, our view is obstructed. That's really what an obstacle does. It obstructs my view. Now, if I take this as a spiritual, not just physical, emotional, and mental, when my view is obstructed, I'm left with my own thoughts, and I can create my own pictures and believe those pictures to be true, which they are not. I liken it to a nightmare. You can have a nightmare, and when we wake up, and that few moments that we're just waking up, that nightmare is so real to us. We're still shaking. We still have the heart breathing, and we're breathing heavy, and our heart's pounding, and we're sweating because it was so real to us in our mind. That's the danger of our pictures. Therefore, when we have an obstacle and our view is obstructed, we are left with our own pictures, and that's what can destroy us. It's important and imperative for us to climb above that obstacle and get a grander view. Now, I can look at that and say, wow, if it wasn't for that obstacle, I wouldn't have this other viewpoint. I know you could sit there and say, yeah, Anne Marie, that sounds wonderful. Is this easy to do? No. We have to let go of our own agendas and perhaps our own positions. We have to think about the other side of a position. So again, obstacles can serve us. They're difficult, but they can serve us and they help us evolve. If that is what our intention is on this planet, to evolve, then we would be grateful for obstacles to come into our lives. Not that I'm saying, yay, come on, bring it on. That's not really what I'm thinking about. Life is going to unfold whether I want it to or not. It's going to unfold. And when life unfolds and delivers me an obstacle, it is my job to embrace that obstacle and use it to my advantage to have a better viewpoint. And to make this practical, a war has evolved on the planet. It is an opportunity for me to embrace compassion and not hatred, to embrace love and not anger. It is my job to send thoughts of compassion and strength and honor to the individuals who are experiencing that on both sides, not to be hating. If I'm going to pick a side, let's not hate Russia because they're invading. The soldiers are following orders. We don't know the whole story. From this perspective, Russia's invading Ukraine and Ukraine is defending the country from this perspective. But I shouldn't, even if that is the truth, my job is not to fill myself with hatred towards Russia. That doesn't help. My job is to find compassion for the soldiers, find compassion for those who are involved in the war. to remove myself from an attachment of the outcome and just to instill the attributes that I'm striving for: understanding, acceptance, compassion, awareness, staying in the present moment, rising above my emotions. That's what this obstacle can present for us. I know I went round and round here, but I wanted you to have a good idea of how anything can be used as an opportunity to evolve. It's not always going to be easy. I don't think it should be easy, actually. When you think about walking, it's not like we just started walking. We had to develop muscles in our legs to be able to support our body to get us to have the mobility of walking. So the same is true with evolution. Those obstacles help develop us so that we can evolve to the next level, hopefully. So thank you again for joining me this evening. I hope that you remember to embrace the obstacles that you may be encountering this week. I look forward to seeing you next week when we will have another enticing topic. Until then, bye now.